Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I posted a little comic on my fan page making a bit of a joke about functional strength, and it was kind of a joke of a little drawn MS Paint thing of a guy coming over and hearing a damsel in distress with exactly a 405-pound log on top of her, and him sumo deadlifting it off and saying, "This is why I lift." And it kind of goes back to this point of there's always these topics in this trendy word of functional strength. And this is going to sound funny coming from me, of all people, because I do focus on all that stuff, athletic performance, big compound lifts, performance over everything else. But you know the reality is, guys, there is no such thing as functional strength. Strength is strength is strength. There is no form of strength training that makes you stronger on something that isn't going to have some potential use in the real world. And I know a lot of people would love for us to think that, oh, you could do nothing but the most functional motor patterns, do squats and power cleans and push presses, and that should be all the basis of your strength, and maybe some deadlifts. There's no strength benefit to some of these other accessory movements or even high rep isolation work and everything else. But the truth is, you know what? Anything that makes a muscle bigger and stronger is going to have some carryover. And now we could argue all day long, well, what if you need to do a chin up to pull yourself up a tree to get away from a bear out in the woods in one of these hypothetical strength situations? We could argue that yes, probably the best way to train for that would be to do very heavy weighted chin-ups or weighted pull-ups. However, you know what? The bicep is heavily involved there, and if you have a stronger bicep, through any mechanism by which you've gotten it stronger, it is probably going to help you pull yourself up that tree just a hair faster to get away from that bear. So that guy who has taken it to where he can do a 30-pound dumbbell for 10 reps on a concentration curl, who's gotten strong enough to do it with 50 pounds, and he's increased his strength dramatically in his biceps, is that going to hurt or help him when he needs to pull himself up that tree to get away from that bear? I think we could all argue that he's probably going to be able to pull himself up that tree a tenth of a second faster due to that stronger bicep, even though it's one of the smaller muscles in there, but it's an important lever in the pull-up. So you got one of these life and death hypothetical situations in which, you know what, might he have gotten there a little better with less time in the gym through purely weighted chin-ups? Sure. But did the curls help him if he chose to do it that way? Yes. Strengthening the weakest muscle, even with a high rep movements that is considered hypertrophy work, is still going to give you strength that can carry over in some way, particularly if it's a primary mover or an important lever or a weak link in some functional pattern for you. And I'm not saying people shouldn't focus on the functional patterns, but this whole idea that anything that people are doing and adding progressive overload isn't giving you strength that can carry over in the real world just isn't true. Yes, plenty of movements and motor patterns will carry over to your specific endeavors the most, but you know what? Those are oftentimes specific also, and those need to be specific to your goals. Functional is dependent upon what you are trying to do. Just like we as powerlifters, yes, we could do back squats to get better at our back squat, but you know what? If they suddenly changed in powerlifting to the front squat, all of us who aren't practicing doing tons of front squats and haven't done 10,000 reps with front squats are now going to be at a disadvantage if we've only done back squats, even though we've built all this functional strength off the back squat. We've changed to a different movement. Specificity of training matters. Functional and how functional something is dependent upon what you are doing with it in the real world to make it functional. And all strength can help you in some way, somewhere, even if it's a concentration curl that you're just getting stronger on for the bicep. It still has strength. And it's still functional. There is no such thing as non-functional strength. So all strength is useful. But remember, motor patterns themselves do come down to specificity of training. You need to train the motor patterns that are going to help you in whatever your endeavor is. But remember, all of those even full body motor patterns that you're doing for whatever application, they are very specific to what you're doing. And there isn't just one or two movements that you can do that are going to perfectly carry over to every situation. You know, at the end of the day, even for functional strength, sometimes people who are just in decent shape still have more than enough functional strength to get the job done. Because now we could argue all day long, and we could say guys like Jeff Seid only trained to look good. He may look amazing, but we've seen his lifts are pretty terrible. He's not very strong, doesn't have good technique, but you know what? In spite of all of that, if Jeff Seid came along with that big tree trunk that he doesn't need a strong grip for, and he only has to do a partial deadlift with 405 pounds, you know what? He could just as easily pull that 405-pound hypothetical tree trunk off the fair maiden as well as Dan Green could. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Mount Bicephalus.